Hello and welcome to EDT 570 Reflective Practice. My name is Bill Selleck. I'm your instructor. Feel free to call me Bill. Uh, in addition to being adjunct faculty at Concordia University Irvine, I'm also director of technology at Hillbrook School. We are an independent school, K-12 in the San Jose area. It's actually kind of weird to say that out loud because we've been a K-8 for 85 years and now we're a K-12. Wow, but it's official. Yeah, ninth grade starts in like 3-4 months. Anyway, that's a big deal to me. You're probably like, I've not heard of Hillbrook School, so it's probably less of a big deal to you. All three of my kids go to Hillbrook. Right now they're in grades 2, 4, and 5. And before I was director of technology at Hillbrook, I was teaching mostly elementary school, kindergarten, second grade, and fourth and fifth grade music. So that's a little bit about me. We're going to jump into the course. I'm going to give you an overview of what each week's going to look like, what the course as a whole looks like, and then you'll be getting weekly videos and announcements from me digging into each week and what you can expect. The biggest thing right off the bat is that week one, you have that discussion board. Keep in mind, you're not going to post on Sunday. You're posting Monday at the earliest. Take a look at that rubric. Make sure you have your initial post due on time, and then 2 replies. Make sure you have some sort of APA reference in there, that you're quoting something that's going to help you practice the APA guideline. And then the other big thing you have due at the end of week one is your weekly reading reflection. That is a mouthful. Weekly reading reflection on Microsoft Flip, also known as Flipgrid, or previously known as Flipgrid. You're going to be doing those each week. There's a link in each module to that page. You're going to do about a 1-minute reflection. Make sure you're keeping up with those each week as well. So with that, the big picture of this course is like most, it kind of ramps up, kind of heavier on the reading earlier on, not quite as many projects in the first week, and then kind of ramps up. But what's actually different is like weeks 4 and 5, you have a big push for a big assignment. Week 6 is a lot of reading, like really heavy, dense reading, and then your big projects do week 7, week 8, you're actually gonna just post your week 7 project into the discussion board, and week 8 is posting that and then replying to your classmates. The course is around reflective practice, and so what do we do in week 8? Reflective practice. It's actually kind of cool, but it's if you've been doing a lot of graduate coursework, this is going to feel a bit different. Because week 7 is the big hit, and then right before that, week 6 is going to be kind of reading heavy. So it kind of does a almost more of like a classic kind of hero's arc. Like it kind of ramps up really big and then lower and then really big and then has an ending. Typically, most courses, at least I've been in and I've taught, week 8 is the big assignment. At Concordia University Irvine, everything's due Friday by midnight. And then the course is done. So it's like, big project done, I'm done. And that's it. And that's not the case in this course. So that's kind of a heads up of what the course is going to look like. Let's head over and actually take a look at the course. And I'm going to just start here where it says start here. And then I'm going to just go through and click next and go through each week. With the modules, you can see that, let me go full screen, whoops. With each module, you'll see the content, which is all the stuff you're going to do, discussion board, and if there's an assignment, you'll see that. And that's always going to be under home. So back to the very top, let's click start here. And if you'd prefer, you can open up a tab. I'm going to make this kind of side by side so you can see me and you can see what we're looking at. I don't expect you to read that from there, but that way you can kind of follow along. So the video I'm making for you right now is going to go where it says welcome video. This walks you through how to get in touch with me, how to reach out, a little bit about me. This is the syllabus you have. Please make sure to look particularly at the resources you have and at the policies. Late policies would be going to make sure you are super aware of. And then we are the 7th edition of the APA manual. You'll be using APA references at least weekly in the discussion board. So that's the start here. I'm going to click on next. And up next, I know you're very good at reading on your own. You can read at a graduate level. Just a few things I wanted to point out to you. Make sure there's some fantastic resources in here: disability access services, the library, tech services, wellness center, and the writing studio. The writing studio is a place to get really, really good feedback. You give them a little bit of a lead time. If you need less of a lead time, like seconds for feedback, posting it into like an AI bot like Chat GPT would be a great way to post something, ask for some feedback, ask for double checking in a similar way you'd use kind of spell check or Grammarly. We'll be talking a lot more about AI in education, because just about every day is changing pretty significantly, and I'm not saying that as a hyperbole. It really, like, I've not seen changes this profound in education in 20 years. It's pretty wild. So the writing studio is a great way to get feedback around your papers. Take advantage of that for sure. The next thing I want to make sure I walk you through are the different program information things. Make sure you have looked at that handbook and you're familiar with all the things in it. You are responsible for that. So, yay. You have some great APA resources. It's one of those where you're like, how do we do APA? How do we do this? So this is a great place to start. Again, you can also hop into, like, paste this in and say, like, hop into Chat GPT. How do I reference a website for APA resources? And you can double check that against some of these resources. Lori Doyle has a great video here for you about synthesizing, about paraphrasing, all kinds of stuff changes if you've been using APA for a while. 7th edition. My favorite out of all of these resources, I should say the one I use the most, is Perdual's Writing Lab, maybe Online Writing Lab. I think that's what the L stands for. It walks you through formatting. And again, we're on the 7th edition. The next big thing we're going to look at is about the library. Make sure you go through the library orientation, parts 1 and part 2. It's like Toy Story. Part 2 is better. I said it. But there are not part 5 and then the library : Lightyear. That's where this falls apart. But lots of really, really good videos. Make sure you're taking a look at those as you go. So the week 1 video is going to walk you through week 1. So I'm going to go very, very quickly through this. You're going to have an instructor video. I'm going to walk you through it. If you don't know much about Microsoft Flip, you're going to click on that. That'll walk you through how to use it. This is the very beginning of our John Dewey and reflective thinking reading. If you don't know Dewey, it is dense, like really dense, really, really good, really useful. There's going to be some quotes that all of you will likely use, kind of the same quotes each week in the discussion board, so don't stress too much about that. But a lot about how we think about teaching comes from Dewey. So if you're not a fan, you're going to be a fan, but when you're in it, it's dense. It's very dense. Let's say that. So that's what week 1 is. Looking ahead, we're going to just click in and actually look ahead. But what you're going to be doing is that Flipgrid, or the Microsoft Flip reflective reading reflection. And then if I click on next, you'll see this takes us to our discussion board. Keep in mind that your initial posts are due Thursday by midnight and 2 responses due Sunday by midnight. That's really important. Make sure that you take a look at that rubric. Make sure that you are having some APA documentation there, mostly just to get practice with it. After 8 weeks of discussion boards and 8 APA references, you'll be much more comfortable with that than wherever you are right now. It's also looking at Ramsey's TED Talk, 3 Rules of Spark Learning. It's good stuff. You're going to enjoy the video. You're going to enjoy the discussion, I think. Week 2 takes a look at reflective practice. No surprise there. You have continuing John Dewey, The Art of Reflection. Again, week 2, you have week 2 reading reflection on Microsoft Flip. And then here's where we have look ahead, assignment number 2, the personalized reflection, presentation, implementation plan. So again, I'm going to give you a heads up of what this looks like each week. Um, for this one, you are going to create a plan for implementing reflective practice. If you click on that Google Doc, it walks you through typically about 6 different steps. In this case, it walks you through 6 steps, gives you a tutorial, gives you a template that you can use, and gives you the rubric there. So definitely take advantage of that. And just because something is in this page, kind of in the content page, you look at that and you're like, oh, there's not too much. I'm just going to scroll and I'm done. If you actually take a look at the Google Doc with an assignment coming up, um, sometimes there's a lot more in there. So heads up on that. I'm going to click right. We're going to look at actually our first assignment that is due in week 2. This is developing a personalized approach to reflective practice. You can see we have the rubric right there. If I click on here for the directions, again, that'll open up a Google Doc for you. It walks you through what you need to be doing. You're going to upload a PDF to Canvas. And again, it's going to be kind of a similar thing. I just give you a little heads up about, kind of what's coming up next in week 3. But in week 2, you have this personalized approach to reflective practice. You have so the part 1 and 2. Each one of those has 4. Let's see. It's kind of part 1 has 2 parts. Part 2 has 4 parts. So there's 6 different assets that you're going to read or watch to kind of get you up to speed on that. There's a variety of tools you can use for making your flowchart. One thing I would strongly encourage you to do is look at some examples like on Canva. You definitely want this to look professional. If you jump right into like Google Drawings, you don't want it to look like a 3rd grader created it in Microsoft Paint. Fair enough? And Google Drawings still has that. So if I were to recommend one way to create a graphic of what your model is going to look like for your own approach to reflective practice, I would start with Canva these days. But just take a look at what all those steps are. Make sure to give yourself some time to actually go through all of that reading and watching before you start up that assignment. And that is due at the end of week number 2. Moving ahead, this is week number 3. And again, you're going to get a video where I'll go into a lot more detail. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I can already see you're like, okay, like I can read faster than you can talk. But it's going to be a similar thing. You're going to have some reading about EFL teachers. There's a nice connection here with TPAC, if you remember that from EDU 501. Just like the week before, Microsoft Flip, you're going to have a 1-minute reflection talking about your reading. And then here where you have assignment number 3, it's going to be a check-in progress report around reflective practice and how you're implementing that. I'm going to just keep going a little bit faster here because, again, you're going to get a nice overview with it. You're going to have this discussion board again, initial post by Thursday. Make sure there's an APA reference, 2 replies to classmates by Sunday. Starting to see the pattern here. You're going to be sharing a personalized reflective practice approach. Make sure that you actually share it so we can see it. A great trick is to copy the link in an incognito window, or if you're in Safari, a private window, and make sure that it works. She's going to share that and then reply to 2 classmates. That one's pretty straightforward. And then here's where you have at the end of week 3, assignment number 2, your personalized reflective practice implementation plan. Right, that one's at the end of week 3. Again, make sure you're looking at all of the rubrics so that you know what is expected and you know what it looks like to hit that FAR column. Moving on to week number 4, we are looking at tracking reflective practice. Here are our learning outcomes. Again, you're going to see the same thing, learning outcomes, Christian message, video from me each week. Here's where we have looking at some themes around reflective practice for the readings. Again, Microsoft Flip, week 4 reflection. You have your progress report due at the end of week 5. So that's looking a little bit ahead. If I look here, we're in week 4. So you're going to jump ahead a little bit. This one's due in week 5. And then right here, assignment number 4, week 7, that's your big one. That's the reflective practice presentation. I'll talk about that when we get to week 7. All right. Our discussion board. I think you're going to have some great discussions around this one in particular because it looks at reflective practice in a career that is not education. Um, which I think right away you're like, why are we looking at a nurse as the thumbnail? Take a look at it and you're like, wow, like it's so similar in so many ways and a little bit different in a few different ways. So again, post by Thursday, 2 replies by Sunday. You got it. All right, we're over halfway done. Week 5. We're now officially in June by week 5. We have our topics, learning outcomes, Christian message, my video. This week we are looking at a case study on teacher reflection. And then you're going to have a video reflection week 5. And then in week 5, you have assignment number 4. No, that's looking ahead. Sorry. That's looking ahead. That's that big one in week 7. So here you don't have a big assignment doing. You're going to just go through those readings. In week number 5. Oh yeah, learning styles. Oh, it's going to get heated here in a good way. You're going to look at it and be like, I totally agree, or I don't know, but also I agree, or like, yes, I knew it all along. I'm not going to spoil it. We'll talk about it in week 5. I look forward to seeing what you share in week 5. That TEDx talk about learning styles, that's good stuff. You have another progress report in week 5. If we look at how many points these are all worth, it's worth 30 points. So it's going to be one of your smaller assignments, just like the previous progress report. Week number 6, looking at literature around reflection. Moving on. Here's where we get pretty deep in week 6 with some Dewey reading. Part 1, the problem of training thought. Oof, this is dense. There's a lot to this one in week 6. But you'll note you don't have an assignment in week 6. You're just going to have some pretty dense reading, and then you have your reflection on Microsoft Flip or Flipgrid. And then looking ahead, week number 7. This is where your big presentation is due. You're going to use something like what I'm using. I'm using StreamYard right here, where I can go between just me. It'd be like a picture-in-picture thing. I could do like if I uploaded some banners or something like from our school's graduation. I could roll in some lower thirds. Presentation of diplomas. Yes. If I had, should we do some music? And this is StreamYard. If I get rid of the screen share and had my video in a nice background, bring that back in. I really like this one. A lot of people will use music. It's not particularly helpful. A lot of people will use Canva to actually record. It looks really and has some nice professional templates for you. Lots of varieties. Even had a student this past quarter use Book Creator for their final presentation. But whatever you're going to be doing, you're going to be doing your big presentation in week 7. You're continuing, by the way, with some more Dewey reading. It is dense. It is useful. It is fantastic. It is dense. This is probably my favorite video you're going to be watching of the entire course, looking at the the commencement speech from David Foster Wallace. I think you're really going to enjoy that one, particularly by the time we get to week 7 and you are deep into reflective practice. And the big assignment, this assignment is worth 100 points, is the reflective practice presentation. And you're basically going to just give us an overview of kind of the whole course. You're going to recap a lot of your presentations, a lot of your assignments. And yeah, it's really straightforward if you just follow this rubric. You're going to talk about common models, talk about some examples of reflective practice, on and on. I'm not going to go through the rubric because you are very good at reading. Let's make this side by side again so you can see it a tiny bit bigger. And I'm going to keep going to the next page in our Canvas shell. And that brings us to week 8. This brings us to the end of June. And in week 8, you're going to finish doing part 3. and you are going to do your final weekly reading reflection using Microsoft Flip. And then the last thing you're going to be doing in week 8 is reflecting on reflecting. uh, it, it's kind of genius. Um, I'm not the one that redesigned this course, so I'm allowed to say that. Ramsey Mullen, who you remember from I think the week 1 discussion, he revamped this one and actually having week 8 be just here's a link to my presentation, and then comment on 2 classmates for our weekend assignment. I think is a really cool way to end this particular course. So with that, that is all of what the course is. A few other reminders for you. What have we got? Make sure you're keeping up with Flipgrid or Microsoft Flip, whatever we're calling it. Still want to call it Flipgrid in my head. I know I'm not alone with that. Make sure you're taking advantage of the Writing Studio. Make sure you're not starting until Monday to actually submit anything, particularly with our discussion boards. If you need any help, reach out to me. The About Me page or the Start Here page about your instructor walks you through all of the things. And yeah, I think you're going to really enjoy this course. I'm excited to have you in it, and we're going to have a good time over the next week, 8 weeks, talking about reflective practice.